There's this YouTube libertarian who goes by the name of Styx and Hammer. He recently posted a video doubling down on the false notion that the Trump economy is anything more than a continuation of the Obama economy. It's as if he simply watched that Fox News segment I debunked a few days ago and took it as gospel. Everything he says is either irrelevant to his position, or is demonstrably false upon 5 minutes of research. One thing is becoming clear: many of these alleged libertarians on YouTube aren't very principled in their libertarianism. I'm guessing this has something to do with the lucrative pro-Trump market on this platform. Shilling for the right is great for your Patreon account. So, let's get started.
Yeah, probably. But we won't get into that nonsense. It's funny because the other day he decided to browbeat the left. He's like, oh, Obama said I would need a magic wand to hit 4.0 GDP growth, 4%. Well, it's at 4.2, so I guess I have a magic wand and then some.
Except that's not what he said. He said Trump would need a magic wand in order to bring jobs back to the USA.
That he's going to bring all these jobs back. Well, how exactly are you going to do that? What are you going to do? There's no answer to it. He just says, well, I'm going to negotiate a better deal. Well, how exactly are you going to negotiate that? What magic wand do you have?
And he was right. You see, job outsourcing has increased under Trump. But maybe he'll find that magic wand yet. Also, it would make no sense for Obama to say Trump needed a magic wand to surpass 4% GDP growth. He did it himself several times. Why would he think a repeat would require a magic wand?
Obama did 4 different times hit above 4.0 GDP growth. However, you've got to understand that that's just a small number of the quarters during his presidency. Trump seems to be hitting or approaching that mark pretty regularly.
Regularly. This is the first quarter where GDP growth under Trump has exceeded 4%. How is this a regular occurrence? And yes, this happened several times under Obama, and it even exceeded 5%, nearly approaching 6%. Furthermore, we would expect an overall higher rate of GDP growth the further behind we leave the worst recession since the Great Depression. Now, a couple of points of speculation. Some have argued that the recent increase in GDP is due to manufacturers purchasing materials en masse in order to prepare to price spikes due to the trade war. Others argue that we are now in a bubble. And yes, there are people who always claim we are in a bubble, and like a broken clock, they are right on occasion. I am not talking about those people.
More sustained growth than we've seen. Job growth, definitely up. Unemployment has ticked down continuously for the last year.
No, not for the last year. For the last 8.5 years. You're just describing the trend Trump inherited. And in fact, as I will explain shortly, this growth has actually slowed.
All of Obama's presidency, where jobs weren't being hemorrhaged, job creation, number one, in many cases barely kept pace with the population growth. So unemployment never really ticked down. It went down from its recession height, but not to an all-time low like it's at now.
All-time low? Well, that's how trends work. The economy doesn't go from 10% unemployment to 4% overnight. You see, it has to reach 9% first. And then 8%. And then 7% and then 6%. Then it will reach 5% and eventually 4%. Trump merely inherited an economy that was nearing full employment.
At now. The fact is, job growth is now fast.
No, that is not a fact. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the highest growth peak happened in 2015.
Faster. Number two, most of those jobs, and indeed most of the jobs for Trump's first 12 months or so in office, are low wage. That is, these are...
Well, that hasn't changed. In fact, the last spike in wage increases happened in September of 2016, 2 months before Trump was elected and 4 months before his inauguration. And since 2017, the growth has been flat. Now, there are different ways of calculating the rise or fall of earnings. You can go by median household income, which masks the fact that more people per household are working and more people are working 2 or more jobs. You can adjust for inflation, which still makes it appear that middle-class income is rising. However, when you factor in the rising costs of housing and rent, education, healthcare, and transportation, it's clear that wages aren't keeping up.
Faster. The boomer is paying his tuition with that money, and buying a car, and saving up for a home, and graduates, buys a starter home. It must have been a really weird time to be able to buy a house fresh out of college. Or immediately land a job and start making $30K a year, which back then was a lot of money because you happen to know someone who knows your dad or something. Must have, boomers, you really had it easy. It's very funny that they ridicule the millennial generation for being lazy. No, I know.
Yes, The boomers had it great. This is back when America was great, remember. Income inequality existed but at a sustainable level where middle and even lower class jobs paid a living wage. Today's median wage would be roughly double had this kept up. These days of America being great also included higher taxes on the wealthy and corporations. Over 30% of the jobs were unionized. You see, Trump isn't doing anything to bring these days back. He's stepping on the Reaganomics scam gas pedal in order to make his friends even richer at the expense of everyone else. You are correct that millennials have it tougher than boomers in this respect. In fact, every generation since the boomers have had it rougher than the previous one. Regular jobs are paying less and less relative to rising costs of living while more and more of the money stays at the top. Trickle-down economics proved to be nothing more than a golden shower on most of America.
Faster. Everything's fine economically. Why are these people so irate about this? Oh, that's because it's Trump who...
Because no matter how frantically this guy waves his hands about, what he's saying is false.
Faster. Try to ridicule the person who's shot consumer confidence up to its highest levels. Consumer confidence is at an all-time high. And it wasn't since 1984.
Once again, this is how trends work. Consumer confidence has steadily risen since the onset of the recovery.
First and foremost, we went from estimated 4.1 to the real total of 4.2 for the second quarter GDP growth. That's pretty good. Anytime it's revised upward, it's always good. But by the way, lately it seems to be revised upward more often than downward. I think the opposite of what happened under Obama. I wonder if there could be a partisan reason for this among some of these firms.
I don't know if it's actually true that the revisions generally dropped under Obama and that they've generally risen under Trump. My guess is this is just another one of his alternative facts. I also don't know what partisanship would have to do with these revisions. Does he think Obama officials were somehow able to manipulate Bureau of Labor Statistics data but too incompetent to keep them from being revised? What if the opposite is true? Maybe Trump officials are manipulating BLS data to make it look better upon revision? In any case, Styx and Hanauer isn't acting on any sense of principled libertarianism. He is shilling for Trump. So, if you're struggling to get by at $40,000 a year and you think somehow that SJWs, feminists, and quote-unquote welfare moms are the source of your problems, you're wrong. You're just being divided and conquered. Your share of the economic pie has decreased so that the wealthy can keep a larger portion of the wealth being generated by this economy that we all participate in. This is not some unavoidable consequence of modern capitalism, as can be seen by the fact that this problem is most pronounced here in the United States. It is the result of changes in legislation that has cut taxes on corporations and on the wealthy and driven unions into near extinction. Wealth inequality itself isn't the problem, of course, it's the levels we've reached. Your wages are falling behind increased costs of living. Take a look at your paycheck. Do you really think that keeping an additional 10% will move you out of that shitty apartment and into a nice home? What if you were making twice the amount you're currently making? You see, because that is the actual problem. Had wages kept up with rising costs of living and economic growth, your paycheck would be roughly twice the size as it currently is. So, keep blaming feminists and lower income people all you want, they aren't the source of your economic problems.